In this particular cycle session, we will dive into how your hormonal changes have an impact on your mind and mood, and we will be offering actionable insights to help you navigate this journey. So, our goal for today is to not just educate, but to empower you to take charge of your health as well and guide you every step of the way like a wing woman. So, welcome again, everyone. And I'd like to introduce our special guest speaker for today, Regis Stellar Pe. Regis Stellar Pe is an international speaker and energy medicine expert on women's health. She is a life mentor for women leaders and change makers worldwide. She is dedicated to ushering an era of more enlightened leadership through the transformative path to self development and self mastery. Her mentorship and programs are designed not just for personal growth, but for the elevation of women's leadership on a global scale. She is redefining what it means to be a woman in power, fostering a new generation of female leaders equipped with wisdom, resilience, and intuition to lead the world towards a brighter and more inclusive future. So, Rega's specialization includes women's health and well being, crisis management for women, harnessing intuition for decision making, and growing wisdom in leaders, and parenting and training gifted children. So, everyone, please welcome our special guest, Rega Stellar Pe.
Hello, everyone. Good evening to Halia and the community. I'm Rega, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you today.
Hi, Rega. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a delight, and I'm looking forward to today's conversation with your community to talk about how to really help ourselves, right? God helps those who help themselves. So today's the day to take charge and pick up the conversation on our cycle and how to maximize our potential, our quality of life, and learn how to go with the flow.
Yes, thank you so much, Rega. So, a lot of the people who registered for this event are actually have a lot of questions in terms of how their cycle affects their mental health and vice versa. So, what would you say? Like, how is it important to recognize the connection between our menstrual cycle and our mental health?
Well, let's get down to the basics of it. I believe that there's a very mainstream connection which has already been built between hormones and our psychological well-being, right? We all know it. We don't have to get into the depth of it. Hormones can affect you. They can give you mood swings. They can make you agitated. They can sometimes make you short-tempered, or at least we use it as an excuse. They can increase your stress level, and they can decrease your stress tolerance. They can make you cloudy, foggy. It can be hard to concentrate. Your body feels weak. You can feel fatigued. And that's why it affects your vitality, your emotions, and your mind. So when I work with our team of trainers and experts around the world at the World Institute for Incurable Diseases, we really go to the crux of the idea that it's not just about mental health. I know we say mind over matter, but it's not just about mental health. The mental aspect is one component, but the area where we most often get touched and poked is really the emotional health. The irritation, the agitation, the anger is not always mental, right? Intolerance is perhaps. Your tolerance for things that you don't like goes down when you're on your cycle. You become more moody. So intolerance can be mental, okay? But agitation, anger, and emotional volatility is emotional health. And then you have your vitality health, where your body can physically feel tired, low energy, or drained. So we are really taking a look at how the cycle affects us on a whole spectrum, from our vitality, emotions, and mind. But there's a very strong interconnection. Now, if I talk about it from the hormonal perspective, you will see that when your estrogen is higher in the first part of your cycle, it's easier to have high energy and kind of be in strong momentum. It's the best time to do high intensity exercises and kind of lift weights. And you feel like you've got it because your body is preparing to build life, and it's preparing to make an egg, so it's giving you all that good vibes and good juju. Now, when you go to the second phase of your cycle after ovulation, that's the time when progesterone starts to kick in and become more dominant. And the job of that hormone is really to kind of calm down, relax you, loosey-goosey. You're supposed to take it easier. It's supposed to bring your pressure down. It's supposed to relax and dilate your blood vessels, increase your blood flow to your reproductive area. So you kind of lose that high energy, and that's the time when you need to take more care of your body and get into more gentle exercises, swimming, like low impact aerobic exercises. So when you see these different phases and how hormones can affect your physical well-being, the same concept happens on the emotional and mental level. You tend to be high energy in the beginning of your cycle. After menstruation is finished and you're in the proliferative phase, you're more energized and energetic. And after ovulation, you tend to feel more tired because you're supposed to slow down. And during menstruation, because you are in a purging or releasing state, you tend to feel like you are losing energy, and which is exactly what happens. Now, the demystification of all of this is really about what we don't see in the chemical tests, what we don't see in a hormonal panel, and what we don't find often on the internet. And that is really about the hidden energy behind what's going on in your body during the different cycles. And the energy is really the reason why you are not just being affected on a physical level, but it's the common thread that brings the interconnectedness between your physical state, your vitality, emotional, and mental state. So we'll talk more about that later. But I hope that kind of gives you an idea and really establishes the importance of knowing your cycle, understanding the different parts of your cycle, and also being aware of the fact that different parts of your cycle can be good for different types of things. Whether it is a unique type of emotional management strategy or a different type of mental management strategy, whether it's about your nutrition or exercise, there are ways to go with your flow so that you will have a smoother ride.
Thank you so much, Riga, for explaining how each phase of your cycle have different hormones that are higher or lower. So during these phases, especially in the luteal phase, a lot of people are asking about that. And I know that's when you have PMS. So during that time when you have these PMS symptoms, how can you differentiate if it's just a hormonal change or if that's already a depressive state? How can you differentiate between that line?
Thanks, Alexa. It's a good question. Now, if you go conventionally, you will go to the DSM-5, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Diseases, and you'll get confused because most of the things listed down there are pretty similar. Some of the differences are that PMS symptoms happen on a cyclical basis, whereas depression, or you would call those kind of psychological challenges, tend to happen on a consistent basis. Once it starts, for 6 weeks or longer, it stays. The problem is that now the array of depression has been expanded so much. You have depression, you have seasonal affective depression, you have cyclic depression, you have high functional depression, you have dysthymia. So even depression in itself has been redefined that it can start and stop. And that's where the gray zone happens. That's where it's really hard to tell, am I just affected by my hormones or am I actually depressed? But let me give you the waiver on this. If you're not feeling well, that's the problem. It doesn't matter if it's coming from your hormones or not. It means there's something wrong and that needs to be addressed. Now, from my side, because I'm an expert in women's health, I research women's health, energy medicine protocols. I teach and certify experts and other trainers from around the world in terms of how to deal with women's health energetically, and most often with conditions that are like endometriosis, adenomyosis, APAS, even PCOS, infertility issues. So we deal with this whole spectrum. And when I find postpartum depression or PMDD or PMS, there are very significant differences in their energy field. If you've ever heard of people having good vibes or having a good aura, it's a real thing. There's an actual battery or a vitality around you. And that is your software. Just like your body is your hardware, that energy is your software. Now, we can look at that energy and figure out where exactly you are. So, for example, if the person's energy centers are very congested in front of their sex here, okay? And the solar plexus here is very congested, and the sex is very congested, and it's happening in the last leg of the luteal phase and sometimes for some people also during the menstrual week, then it's more likely PMS. In PMS, the sex chakra is congested, the solar plexus is congested, and your forehead is affected because of those two. And when that dip of energy happens, congestion, and hypersensitivity, you go to PMS. In depression, it's quite the opposite. When we see people with classic cases of depression, your mental energy here, just right here, gets weakened a lot. Okay? Have you seen people who are trying to focus on something or trying to remember something and they're like, what was that thing? Have you ever seen that? You're trying to activate your mind. There's an energy here which is about your focus, which is about your concentration, your ability to remember things. There's a will of decisiveness here. And this energy center, if it's really weak, people become very low in their vitality and mental ability to really hold themselves up. And then you have a root chakra or a base chakra, which is at the back, the base of your spine. Now, this is another energy software which tends to become really, really weak in people who are actually depressed. Their ability to think and make decisions and their ability to execute and do things and get things done gets compromised. So if this is weak and this is weak, I know that this is really a serious and actual case of depression. Compared to congestion here in the front in the sex, congestion in your emotional center, in your just like under your boobs, in front of your rib cage, that really uncomfortable feeling of like something in the pit of your stomach, that here, your sex chakra and your forehead, if those three are the violators, then I know it's PMS. Even if the symptoms externally represented as similar. But if this is very weak, this is very weak, then it tends to be more on the depression side. And then what we do is we evaluate your energy not only when you are in that luteal phase, but we see your functional energy for your whole month and your average, so we can really compare that is this affecting you only during your luteal phase or not. But the reality is that even if your depression comes and goes, it can still be depression. Just because it comes and goes with your menstrual cycle doesn't mean it's not depression. So it should not be invalidated. We should still take it just as seriously. The only critical factor is the approach with which we will solve it. Because in our system, we will use different protocols to alleviate that depression, to eradicate the mood swings, or to address the anxiety and discomfort that comes with, going through PMS. And I find that most often, there's a lot of emotional energy which is stuck. It's like pent up. And if you cannot release it, your PMS symptoms get more and more intense. And if your emotional mental energy is clear and flowing like a fountain, you don't get stuck with PMS. You just go through the month and you're fine. Because we never brought it to question. We didn't ask the question, how come some of us are struggling with PMS while others aren't? What can we do to not only think about coping with PMS, but actually empowering ourselves to break free from that cycle so that our hormones can do their job without wrecking our week, okay? Yeah. So there are techniques that we can learn that can be self-help techniques. And then for more serious cases, there are also energy management strategies that a specialist can work on with you to help you.
Okay, someone asked, so we're going to have a chance for Q&A later, but I think this question is a follow-up on what you talked about. So Ariane here is asking any advice on releasing these emotional buildups you were talking about?
Okay, Ariane, where should we begin? Let's start with first forgiving and moving on. I think that's a skill set we should learn in school and college, how to forgive and how to accept forgiveness. That can help bring a lot of closure. And then we need to inculcate in ourselves a habit of bringing closure to our life experiences. Most often we are in the habit of putting things under the rug or just kind of accepting problems as they are and thinking that time and tide will heal it. But I believe that if you can address it first and if you can solve it head on, then that's a much better way. So in things that you can have actionable steps on with specific people, go for closure. Have those conversations that can give closure, express yourself to release the pent-up emotions, share what's on your mind with the right people. However, there are some cases where you really cannot. You can't say everything that's on your mind. You're bound by limitations. You have some restrictions, or maybe it's not the right opportunity. Maybe it's not the right time. So you shouldn't be sitting down like a volcano, gurgling with your emotions. Then maybe you can use some simple practices. So I can share something with you now, and let's see if it helps all of us, okay? So this is one of my favorite techniques developed by Master Delpe, who's a modern sage, and he's the founder of our healing system. And I can share this with you. So if all of you who have something to release, in case you have anything, you can participate with me now, okay? Let's give it a try. So I want you to first just sit down, okay? Close your eyes. It's going to take a moment. And take a deep, long breath. Very good. Okay. With your eyes closed, I want you to imagine that you are in front of a beautiful ocean. And this is the most beautiful ocean you have ever seen. And just be there and relax. Inhale deeply and exhale all your stress. And let the ocean absorb it from you. The ocean is a powerful extractor. Again, inhale deeply and exhale the emotions which you cannot express and let them go to the ocean. Inhale deeply and exhale anything that's bothering you in life and let it go. Inhale deeply and exhale any helplessness or limitations you feel in your life and release them to the ocean. And at last, inhale deeply again and exhale any anger, irritation, or frustration you may have. Very good. Now, imagine that you have a knife or a sword made of brilliant white light. And take this and disconnect from all of these negative emotions and thoughts you have released. So it is. And then focus on your heart in the center of your chest. And revisit your most beautiful and cherished memories of life. Your happiest and most successful moments. And smile with your heart. Very good. Now open your eyes. Okay. Can you get angry now? It's a very short moment. We only took a few, maybe a minute or two, but the idea that you can actually alleviate and ventilate your emotions and let them go. Let the ocean extract them and take them out and release them. Helps you to offload that pressure. And when you focus on happy memories and positive outcomes and your most empowering times, you connect back to that energy. You switch your energy. It's like switching a button. You change mode and you go to that new empowered state. Now, from that new vibration, it's easier to tackle any difficult situation you're dealing with. And you don't have to go and complain to someone else about all your emotional problems. You just don't make another person a garbage can, right? Just ventilate and release it and exhale it out to the ocean. That's it. That's a simple trick. This is a 2-minute preview to a 20-minute meditation. So if you like the preview, you can always learn the Just Be Free self-healing meditation, which I feel is every girl's best friend. Okay, we all need it at least once a month, if not every week. And we should do this one. It's only 20 minutes. And you can really heal yourself and alleviate a lot of pressure in life and prepare yourself to start bright, fresh, and in an empowered position. Okay? So I hope that helps.
Yay. Thank you so much, Rigo. I felt calmer. And a lot of people in the chat are also saying that they felt calmer and lighter. So imagine if you do this every week or every month, especially on days when you feel like you're low, like you have low energy. So yeah, thank you so much.
You're most welcome. It's the 2-minute preview to the 20-minute meditation. So this is feeling 10% good. If you do the whole thing, you will be blissed out. And actually, this is something that I give as a self-care practice to all, my patients and clients who experience PMS. I tell them to do this meditation like 3 days before or 2 days before they're expecting their period. Or if they know that their PMS symptoms hit like 5 days early or 4 days early, I want them to do self-healing. Because when you take care of yourself and you alleviate all that volcanic pressure built up inside you, you can't get angry anymore. Your irritability goes away, your anger goes away, you clear yourself. So this is one of my favorite simple tricks that you can use to help yourself during PMS.
Yay. Thank you so much, Rega. And for people who have PMDD, which is maybe a bit more intense, would you recommend this as well?
For people who have PMDD, which is the premenstrual dysphoric disorder, it's a bit more serious because your energy is more complicated. It's actually, when I deal with PMDD, I often find comorbidities, which means that PMDD usually doesn't come alone. There are very few cases of pure PMDD. Most often, it's an interlap or overlap between chronic depression or chronic anxiety and PMDD. And in chronic anxiety, it can be generalized anxiety, it can be OCD, it can be post-traumatic. Sometimes in depression also, there can be 6 or 7 different types of depression. And PMDD also comes with sleep issues. Commonly, you have sleep concerns. So for those who have PMDD, I really encourage them to actually have energy healing or energy management, because for that, we deep dive into their body's health. We scan all their energy centers, including, I also scan their glands, their hormones, and their endocrine levels. So for me, I would scan how's the estrogen doing, progesterone doing, Do you have excess prolactin, and so on. And then we really figure out the root cause that is causing this havoc, and many a times it's not really the hormones. PMDD is more psychological and sometimes karmic, coming from our past actions, and very often psychological, sometimes affected by external trauma or relationship trauma or societal trauma. So there are more conditions that aggravate it, and it's not I would say like a soul condition. So I like to deal with it from a professional perspective. I think that's the time when you need to use another shoulder, you need to go to the experts and let them help you, because you should not suffer for too long. That's the time when you say, okay, I'm waving my white flag, help me now, and let's get it over with. Okay. Usually for PMDD, it takes one reproductive cycle. So our body takes 3 months to mature one egg, right? It's not like it's a new egg starting from scratch every month. You're kind of like a farmer. You plant and you harvest in cycles, just like we're talking about cycles today. So that whole process takes about 3 months. And in order to deal with PMDD effectively, we have an energy management and healing protocol that really covers a span of 3 months, goes deep in your body, and starts to prepare you to break through the PMDD symptoms, overcome the anxiety and associated depression, and then reboot your body's ability to manage itself with healing, with breathing techniques, and with new knowledge and new mechanisms, including exercises, but very much so on an expert using vibrational medicine to bring the body back in balance and sync. So in 3 months, most people can break free from it. Very often do I find somebody who takes a little bit longer than 3 months, Yeah. But if you have PMDD and you say, I want to do something and I want to get started now, I would encourage you to, first of all, start with breathing exercises that can help you to decongest your energy and release the tension in your body. So there are 8-step exercises called Just Be Alive that are only 15 minutes, and you can start them. Either you can do it every day or you can do it when you feel like it. But honestly, you should really do it in the build-up in your luteal phase. And 15 minutes a day, and you can decongest a lot, and it already starts to balance you out. That's my number one. And my number 2 tip for them would be reboot and reevaluate your diet. Diet is also very important. You cannot ignore the fact that maybe what you're eating is exacerbating or making your symptoms worse. So if there's anything you can do on the physical level, from diet, from chemical exposure, from toxins in your environment, clean that out, because that's physical. And on the psychological level, you need healing to help you. Like we do this all the time, and people come from different countries and different parts of the world. So we have a team of experts who can help, okay? And also for PMDD, there are different types. It's not all the same. Like PMDD with anxiety is different from PMDD with depression or PMDD with diabetes. So that's why I'm not giving you one solution, because you might need something different from others. And that's why you can just contact us and we can talk to you, figure out where you are, and then give you those recommendations accordingly, okay? So don't go for like a generic one-size-fits-all.
Amazing. Thank you, Rega. And I think another very important question that I know a lot of people want to ask is how, like, during the time when people are emotionally low during their cycle, a lot of people want to know how they can still be productive at those times, like especially during work or maybe in school.
That's a great thing. Okay, so I'll show you 2 exercises to first help loosen up and decongest the energy. Because when you're on your cycle, you don't want to exercise, right? Nobody wants to get out of bed. So you're thinking you feel more sluggish. So the idea is to reverse the sluggishness and first gain vitality so you feel alert and fresh. And then once you have those increased vibrations and you are a little bit decongested, then there are a couple of things that you can do to improve your productivity. First and foremost is to build your willpower. Because most often, if I see you like a program or a prototype, the ladies who have lower willpower tend to have the most extreme menstrual symptoms. So if your love is very strong or your intelligence is very strong, but your will and your body's will and your mental, emotional will is lower, then there's more mood swings. If the will is low, there's more depression. If the will is low, there's more anxiety. And if the will is low, there's more PMS symptoms. So one of the very, very effective ways to really learn how to balance out your cycle overall, not just cope with the last few days, is to do willpower development that helps you to boost your will and build your power in your body to be stable and strong so that you do not waver on those last couple of days. So I like to go for it from the preventative attitude rather than thinking, oh, how am I coping with the problem? So it's not just about coping, it's about taking charge and turning things around. So what I like to do is I suggest willpower development in the start and middle of your cycle. So until you reach PMS, before that, you should be doing willpower development. So if you're a very soft, sweetheart type, you're a princess and you are a sweetheart, you're very loving, you're very gentle, you need to change and build more power in your energy so that your energy is not like cotton candy, easily touched, easily swayed, not like a flower in the wind flowing with the emotions, but you build power so you become like the bark of the tree or the trunk of the tree which stays steady even if there's a wind. You're not a leaf. So to do that, you need to build your willpower. Now, how can you do that? You can practice martial arts. You can do some kind of strength training during the month. If you want, you can learn willpower development with us. We also have programs for willpower development, especially for women, that combine your physical, emotional, and mental will to make you stronger. When your will goes higher, your overall cycle evens out, and you're able to be stronger. You're able to override the emotional ride and the mental ride. And that way, the last couple of days of your cycle, when you actually have menstruation, you don't feel so down. You don't feel so emotionally vulnerable because you're more stable. Your energy becomes strong. If I scan your chakra, it's more solid. Okay? It has more density and power. So in order to be productive in those last couple of days, you need to prepare for the cycle ahead of time with willpower development. That's your friend. And to build your willpower, you need discipline. Okay? Discipline is the child of willpower. So you need to build power, do more physical exercises, put yourself into mental will mode, dedicate yourself to accomplishing things faster, because it's like a roller coaster. If you're already in high momentum, then when you reach those last few days, you might go 5% down, but you won't go totally on the ground. But if you are already driving slow, thinking that, oh, by the end of the month, I'm going to crash, then you're already creating resistance in your journey and you're naturally preemptively slowing down. So changing your mindset, working on building your willpower is very important. And then during those actual days, you want to either work with a buddy who can keep you accountable, or B, have a certain idea about your accomplishments for the day and the week so that you have a goal in mind that you want to achieve. Okay? If you do the breathing techniques that you can learn through the Just Be Alive exercises, it can really help you. You will be fresh and energized and you won't need to have too much downtime. But of course, if your condition is extreme, then you need healing. And the best proactive way to prevent that low dip during your menstrual cycle is to really do willpower development. If not with Master Delpe's program online, you can still join a martial arts studio or, something that burns your fire and gives you power. So just like a soft yoga Pilates session or a dancing session doesn't build power, it just makes you sweeter, right? You need to do something to awaken the power, whether it's athletics, whether it's weight training, whether it is even if it is martial arts, because when you increase that, your firepower increases, your mental steadiness, stamina, and density increases, and your kundalini also awakens. In a hormonal sense, your testosterone also gets boosted with exercise. So it not only balances you on the hormonal level, but also vitality and also emotional and also energetic. Okay?
So, Bea Dolores, she asked, sometimes if a period gets delayed and it
Mhm.
can happen due to emotional or physical stress, are the phases based on schedules, or what phase would the extra days or delayed part of the period cycle be?
Okay, Bea, if your cycle is delayed due to stress, then you are still in the luteal phase because you have not actually cleared out your, you have not actually like released the progesterone from your system. Then you are still in the luteal phase. Now, what tends to happen is that happens when you're delayed. So you still treat your body like it's in luteal phase. However, now in the case that your period actually gets skipped altogether, that's the tricky part. So if your period gets skipped altogether, then it depends on how long the duration is between your period, like what your total cycle length is. Because for us, anywhere between 26 to 36 days is considered normal. And nowadays, they've even stretched and made the window more lax, saying 21 to 40 days is normal, right? So when I deal with cases when the period is altogether skipped, then we say, okay, from start, like the follicular phase is done, there's a tendency that you might have even missed ovulation, and you might not have noticed that you also had an anovulatory phase. So that needs to be seen. In most cases, medically, they cannot really test it after the fact, but energetically, we can scan it if you're not developing the eggs on time because your body's overstressed. And then the second is when the luteal phase due date for the period comes, it may have gotten skipped because the ovulation phase did not progress properly and you didn't build up for it. You skipped ovulation, and that's why the hormones were thrown off, and now at the end, there's no period. The problem started here, but you are only able to detect it when the reds don't flow. So at this juncture, if you miss it, you still kind of consider a luteal phase for a few more days until the time that you would have theoretically had your period. Okay? And then usually there's a 1 week delay, more or less. It kind of differs. Like I said, it depends on whether you have a 21-day cycle or a 40-day cycle. For a 21-day cycle, I would say count from the time that your period was supposed to come. But for a very long cycle, you might have like a 1 week lag time because your body has a slower response mechanism and tends to progress more gradually. But if you don't know and you're not sure, because one of us cannot scan and detect for you, then you just treat it as if your expected period would have been the cutoff point. But usually, if you ever have a cycle, if you ever have a cycle where you did skip a period altogether, then you really need to take more care in terms of the follicular phase. Because it tends to happen that the egg quality in the next cycle can be compromised because during menstruation, there are hormones that are supposed to start and trigger the egg development. So it's not as stressful for other ladies out there, but for those who are considering to conceive or trying to conceive or are very stressed about the 2 week wait, if you've been having infertility challenges, then it's very, very important for you. And you might need energetic scanning to be able to see what's really going on in your body. Because today, maybe 1 in 6 women and 1 in 6 people are having fertility challenges all around the world. 1 in 6. So there are a lot of these factors. So if you are delayed in period, then you have to consider the delay as part of the luteal phase. But if you're skipped altogether, then there are too many variables and we prefer to scan. But for ease of calculation, you just count from the time where the period was supposed to happen.
What are common mental health challenges experienced during PMS or the luteal phase, and how can they be addressed?
Most often during the luteal phase, your limbic system gets activated. So your emotional trigger, your sensitivity to pain and pleasure gets heightened. It depends on your normal response, how you would act out, because I see a lot of variation in it. But in a textbook case, you would most often have irritability, you would have extreme mood swings, you would have a shorter temper, you would have more highly critical energy. And the reason for that is when you are in that high tension state, your heart energy shrinks. Your heart chakra can get smaller, your solar plexus and your critical energy from your throat and your lower emotions get bigger. And your sensitivity to pain and pleasure from here, from your forehead, gets more sensitive. So most often if I see what's happening in that time and why you're having those challenges, if your heart is shrinking, your lower emotions are increasing here, your critical mindedness is increasing, and your sensitivity to pain and pleasure controlled by your limbic system here, the energy is becoming more sensitive, it means that you can go to your own difficult mode, which is a little bit personalized. But more commonly, anxiety, depressive moods, sluggishness, self-critical behavior are all part of the process. And inner renewal can really help with that. So you can do this self-healing meditation, Just Be Free, to help you alleviate pent-up emotions. But if you really want to take a deep dive and there are more things that are bothering you, there are more symptoms, and you need to balance yourself out, you need to open and awaken that happy energy and bring it back again and calm down the criticalness and self-critical attitude, self-sabotaging behavior, and you want to ventilate and clean out your emotional energy, then you should do inner renewal, which is a 40 minutes program, a guided program that can help you to clean your emotions, calm your mind, and awaken yourself with more spiritual or harmonized energy so that controlling your vitality and energy, calming down and balancing your nervous system from sympathetic to parasympathetic, and releasing the positive hormones like, releasing oxytocin, serotonin. It will counteract the effect of the reproductive hormones which are triggering adrenaline. So most often, if you are having PMS, your reproductive hormones are triggering your cortisol to be high, like a stress hormone. The counteracting factor is your pineal gland, which releases happy hormones. So if you activate this without having to take medication, you can have happy hormones. Because maybe it's harder to have sex, when you're bleeding. So how do you get it done then? I can show you a technique on how to activate your happy hormones and more peaceful hormones and awaken your internal energy to be calm. All right? Do you want to do it? Okay. So for this simple technique, I want you to use your fingers like switches, kind of like a switch on the wall. When you click it, it turns on the light. The same way your energy is controlled by switches in your body, and you want to connect these two with your thumb. This is to balance your upper energy here, and the middle finger is to balance your lower energy. And when we are having our rough ride, we need to balance what's going on down here in our private parts with the upper energy of our emotions, our heart, and keeping a balanced head, right? We need to balance the upper and lower. So you're going to connect these two to balance the upper and lower, and then just place it on your lap, okay? And now you follow me. Inhale through your nose and tilt your head up. Exhale through the mouth, chin in, okay? Rapid oxygenation helps to calm down and clear you very fast. So let's do it 10 times. Very good. Now you're full of oxygen and vitality, so close your eyes and gently concentrate in the center of your chest and breathe deeply. Awaken your heart. awakening the heart, the loving, nurturing, and caring energy, including your self-love and love towards others. Very good. Now let's repeat it again with the triple finger. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Okay. Now this time, concentrate in between your two eyebrows. This will not only clear your mind, but it will also regulate your pituitary hormones that affect your cycle, like your FSH, LH, your important hormones that regulate your reproductive cycle are controlled by this point. So gentle breathing and relax. Very good. And now for the last time, we'll repeat the breathing, synchronized breathing 10 times. Okay. Now, for the last time, concentrate on the top of your head. This is your crown chakra or energy center, awakening inner peace and serenity, and stimulating your pineal gland for your happy hormones. Just focus on this point with a gentle smile. Okay, now open your eyes and smile. How are you feeling now? Oh, I see some hearts in there. I can't see all of you though, but I see some hearts in there. Some are lighter and more hearts. Okay, when you do this, try to get angry now. Test yourself. See if you can get agitated. Can you? Can you try to remember something that makes you mad? See if it affects you. It won't touch you anymore because you have balanced your emotions, your mind, and your spiritual energy and your will. So your emotions, your mind, and your will are aligned and balanced. We've also done 3 things, which is stimulate the immunity through the thymus, that is right here. For those of you who have autoimmune conditions that get worse with, your cycle, you need to stimulate this. You have cleared your mind and also calmed down your pituitary hormones that also affect your cycle, like FSH and LH. And you have awakened your more internal serene energy by focusing here and stimulating happy hormones from your pineal gland. So 1, 2, 3 are your magic trifecta points. You can concentrate on them for 30 seconds each after doing the deep breathing like this, and all the energy will go, it will decongest and balance you back. It's my shortcut technique called synchronized breathing. And it's also part of the Just Be Alive exercises. So, I mean, you can always download this and do it, by yourself if I'm not around.
As someone with lupus, an autoimmune disease, I usually get flares whenever I get my period. And aside from an abnormal change in mental state, I also get sick, and it usually hinders my progress. How do these two relate, and how can I help alleviate the negative effects of my period?
Well, I'm sorry to hear that you're going through this experience, but this is something that a lot of women are experiencing worldwide, whether it's lupus, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis, whether it's Hashimoto's or any other autoimmune disease. There's a tendency that if your cycle is like very erratic or very intense, you can suffer from exacerbated symptoms. And most often it happens during your luteal phase. Okay, let me show this to you. So for those of you who have studied your cycles, you are excellent. If you don't know, you start when your period starts. You go through the first half of your cycle until you ovulate. And then you start the second half of your cycle. And this is the luteal phase that Alexa has been talking about. Now, in this second half of your cycle, the luteal phase, between ovulation and the next menstruation is when the challenge happens. And the challenge is that if ever your body thinks that maybe we're going to get pregnant this time, okay? So what the body does is it tells the immune system to quiet down and go into slow-mo and not interrupt something that is being formed in your body and not attack it and not reject the pregnancy, okay? So in order to keep your immune system calmer so that it does not reject or does not feel like, oh, there's a foreign object in me, I need to attack it. So it does not attack the pregnancy. The body is really designed in a way to calm down the immune system and quiet it down in the second half or second phase. But then when the body realizes, oh, shucks, I'm not pregnant, I just menstruated, we're starting a whole new cycle, it says, okay, build up the immunity again. So this process actually happens, and this is really the rationale behind, I guess, the divine design. So when this process happens, you now understand why in the second half of your cycle, your autoimmune conditions are getting worse because your immunity is getting weaker. And also the drop in hormones and the sudden fluctuation in hormones is making it more unpredictable for your body to respond. About 54, 57 different cytokines fluctuate apart from just the hormones that we're talking about, right? In our case, we only talk about hormones most often, but there are other things in the body, other chemicals, other neurotransmitters, other cytokines that are also riding the flow up and down, and it's not just the hormones. And that's the part that actually makes your inflammatory markers and your clotting factors and other things affected. So your autoimmune conditions can get triggered. So now you know why in the second half of your cycle, things are a bit more shaky. The question is what to do about it. Well, apart from taking care of your diet and your mental health and taking time for self-care, in these cases, you actually really need energy medicine and energy healing because we have to kind of step in from the outside, stimulate your immune system, activate it and balance it and reprogram it, not to disrupt and not to attack more, okay? Some people actually have the opposite effect. Some people with autoimmune conditions have a worse time in the beginning of the cycle when the immunity is stronger because their autoimmune condition is attacking certain parts of the body. But for others whose conditions are more related to the fluctuation of hormones and fluctuation of cytokines and neurotransmitters, most of them tend to have a more difficult time in the second half of the cycle. So we don't just generalize, we study your energy profile and what's going on, and then we have to heal that, and that includes not only healing the autoimmune condition and not only healing the endocrine balance or hormonal balance, but also going to the root cause of the immunity and stabilizing it. That's why we do it without, we call it no touch, drug free, and not just natural, but more than natural. It's energy medicine. And that's some of the things that can help you. Your alternative would be to take injections. Sometimes your doctors might give you, hormonal injections and other things to balance, to try to balance your body, but it's really difficult. It can be dependency forming, and it can also hamper your fertility in the long run if you plan to get pregnant later. I get a lot of those cases as well, who have been taking these injections, or sometimes doctors will also give you a device such as a Mirena device or some kind of IUD, which will basically shut down your period. So you get forced into menopause in a certain way. But if you're very young and you're still planning to have kids after, then those devices can be quite dangerous and have negative side effects for you if you still plan to get pregnant later. So if you're, in your 50s and you can afford to do that, you're not thinking of starting a family later, then maybe you can consider going into menopause. Maybe if you're in your 40s and you've decided early, you can trigger artificial menopause by some of those devices, which kind of just either shut down the progesterone or overwhelm the body with excess progesterone to shut off the cycle, either way. But if you plan to still get pregnant or maintain your fertility, then you should go for energy healing, which is probably the best choice in terms of dealing with this, because conventionally this is a non-medical responder. So that's what we deal with: incurable diseases, non-medical responders, and medical anomalies. These are the three kinds. Okay? So that's my suggestion for you, and also to kind of shed light on the condition and what's going on. And we have coaches and trainers that you can talk to. You definitely need someone who understands what you're going through to be able to mentor you to explore and expand your overall life potential and not just be limited by your one health condition. Because in our life, we have to remember that maybe there's like one organ in our body that's giving us trouble. And that can be, I don't know, is it your reproductive system? Is it your liver? Is it your lung? Maybe there's one organ that's not working well. We shouldn't forget to be grateful for everything else that is actually working well. We tend to forget and ignore them. And we have to say, okay, well, the rest of my body is working well. Thank you, 90%. And for the 10% that's not working well, somebody can help you with that. So you do not get overwhelmed or feel like you have to give up or that everything is wrong. Just remember that we'll put things into perspective. Almost everything else is working well, and the thing that's giving you trouble, we are there to help.
Amazing. Thank you for such a detailed answer.
Yeah, so I do this day in and day out, and I train a lot of experts. That's my passion, is to really certify and teach this to others. So those who want to learn how to use energy medicine to be able to heal themselves or others, you can also do so. That's my passion, to teach and train, to certify people who want to do this professionally. And of course, I myself do this as well. So whether it's people from the barrios and the barangays, or it's billionaires, actresses, and royals, we all have the same reproductive problems. And I've proven that because I've helped people on the whole spectrum, all the way from the underprivileged to the top of the top. And you know what? You still have a uterus, you still have 2 ovaries, and you still have the same hormones. And everybody needs and deserves the right help to live a great life.
Okay, someone raised their hand. All right.
So while Ariane is typing, I think she is definitely asking something about circling around, trusting your judgment when your hormones are up and down, I guess. We'll learn more about it says, PMS emotional triggers. Should you trust your judgment during this time? It depends on who you are as a person. If you're very emotionally volatile, then you actually have a blind spot even during your non-PMS time. It means that you, as a decision maker, have volatility and emotional bias. Because the question is, how do you make your decision? Do you make a decision with your mental intelligence, with your emotions, or with your instincts? If you profile yourself, are you making decisions by gut instinct? Like, do you have that killer instinct and you just know what to do? If you're using that gut instinct, maybe you're fine. If you are an emotional decision maker, which means that you kind of have to feel, does it feel right? Does it feel good? And your emotions are volatile, then I would skip it and I would really make sure that you have advice or mentoring, or you have somebody to check and balance you, because you're already emotional and emotions are your faculty of decision making. So that's where you need to get someone who's a good mentor or a good sister or a good wing woman to help you there. But if you're a mental decision maker and you're a rational type, okay, and you're a rational type and a very concrete minded person, even your hormones fluctuate and even your PMS or whatever cycle comes, you don't get affected. You can still make decisions on the go. Like if you see some women who are in corporate jobs, they don't just stop working 1 week out of the month, right? They are boss women. They have to make decisions. They have to run companies. They have to execute things. You can't stop working for 1 week out of a month. So for this, you actually need to know your profile. There are 8 different types of decision makers, and there are 5 levels of intelligence that you use to make decisions. Your gut instinct or intelligence, your emotional intelligence, your rational intelligence or your concrete mind. And then after that is your abstract intelligence, your ability to see the big picture, strategy, and principles. And higher than that is your spiritual intelligence. So whichever one you're using from the 5, you know which one should be deployed at which time and which one has a blind spot at which time. So you have to really see yourself as a project and do a SWOT analysis of your decision-making capacity. The other thing that I also recommend is really learning about these 5 levels of intelligence and understanding where are your strengths and which are the next ones you need to develop. So maybe this is a good book for that. This is called From Success to Fulfillment, and this book by Master Del Pay gives you a really good idea of your different levels of intelligence. But if you have, for the others who have sexual issues or reproductive issues or even fertility related issues, this is my go-to. You might recognize me here on the cover. I had shorter hair back then. But this is called Sexual Alchemy and Divine Intimacy. And this sexual alchemy is really about how to use energy to balance yourself, balance your energy, overcome your wishy-washy attitudes, how to also have more enjoyment and more pleasure in your cycle, whether you're with a partner or by yourself, and how to grow your creativity, increase your mental concentration, and empower your charisma. You know, you have more vitality and aura, and you radiate, and even how to have really deep and enticing orgasms. So it really depends on what you're looking for, but some of the secrets to imbalances are here. And sometimes those who are, sometimes also sexually repressed also develop a lot of pent-up energy. So if that's what you're looking for, this is a safe, spiritual, and very solemn way of approaching sexuality without being afraid of it, and, in a more gentle and solemn way. Yeah. Okay, so don't just trust your judgment or not based on what time of your cycle it is, because that's a panacea. You have to profile your 5 levels of intelligence and know what kind of situation needs which kind of decision. So if you're making a mental decision, you're probably fine. But if you're making an emotional decision like, do I love you or do we break up? You better get a feedback from another girlfriend. Okay? Instinctive decisions you can still make. It depends on your profile.
Okay, thank you everyone again for listening to all the insights that we uncovered in this cycle session, especially to Rega. Thank you very much for your insightful advice and the breathing techniques that you taught us. Also, the self-healing meditation, which was the ocean breathing method. And a lot of people really love that one. So that one's very helpful to do every month if you're nearing PMS or if you feel like you have a lot of pent-up anger. So thank you very much, Rega, for sharing that with us. So this is also your chance to book a free 20-minute discovery session with WIID. So you can scan this QR code. I'll just flash it here for like 45 seconds. So you can take out your phones and scan this QR code because this is a limited first come, first serve session that you could book with them. So if you have any of the health issues or health concerns that Rega talked about, or you had questions that were not addressed fully, this is the best time to book a session with them. So take advantage of this opportunity because Rega and her team will really be able to help you. Thank you so much, everyone. And we really hope you enjoyed our first ever cycle session with us. It's our very first cycle session. And thank you very much for taking the time to listen to everyone's questions as well as participate in the meditations. So I really hope that you guys feel calmer, lighter, and now more in control of your cycles and your hormones because obviously we want to be better because if, as Rega said, if you feel that something's wrong, it means that it's not normal. So let's not normalize having these health concerns or issues. Like we really want you to feel better at the end of the day. So yeah, thank you everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. To everyone who's here in Manila, or if you're on the other side of the world, good morning. I hope you have a great day ahead of you.
Thank you, Alexa, as well, and the whole Halia team. And I just want to shout out to them for doing a great job for women's health and sanitary products. And I think they have very lovely organic and biodegradable bamboo-based products. So if you really need to have that private and intimate care, go for them. And I think it's a long-term sustainable solution that our planet really needs, you know. So yeah, cheers to your whole team.
Yay. Thank you so much, Rega, and your whole team. Thank you very much. Really enjoyed it.